Jesus falls the third time. In this station we see Christ nearing the summit of Calvary. We see a man physically broken, almost at the end of his strength. We see an image of suffering that can only be magnified by the imminent nailing of his body to the cross which he carries. Perhaps it is not surprising that many would view with suspicion the Christian approach to suffering. When we consider such pain, is it little wonder that today many would want to wholly eliminate such suffering from the world? The avoidance of pain and suffering is for many paramount, and if we ever doubted it, we now have the rise of such clinics whose sole purpose is to end human life rather than to allow such suffering. Pain, however, is part of who we are. It is part of being human, and to attempt its complete elimination at any cost is to miss this point. It is to deny what we are as humans in all our weakness and fragility, and impose an order which is artificial and ultimately hollow, an order which does not reflect reality and which leads to a less than human response to suffering. No, to rid humanity of suffering would require something far greater than scientific method. Our Holy Father once said that anyone who really wanted to get rid of suffering would have to get rid of love before anything else, because there can be no love without suffering, because love always demands an element of self-sacrifice, because, given temperamental differences and the drama of situations, it will always bring with it renunciation and pain. Perhaps this is why we are said to fall in love, just as we may fall physically, as Christ did on his way to Calvary. The term denotes some recognition of the pain involved in loving. Love of God and love of neighbour are what Christ commanded of us, the hardest lessons of all. And love, as opposed to mere infatuation or unhealthy obsession, involves a complete giving of oneself that opens us to suffering. It also involves connecting with reality at a deeper and far more profound level. We literally hit the ground. Loving does indeed mean falling and not floating away in some dreamlike state. This self-giving is what makes us truly human. When we accept the reality of love, we must accept suffering. And it is by suffering that we learn to love all the more. Suffering helps us grow as human beings, rather than diminishing our humanity. We see a snapshot in this station of what love is. Love is a man bent low to the ground, carrying the instrument of his own death. If Christ had avoided all suffering, could he have really displayed his complete love of and understanding of a suffering humanity? Can we, if we seek to avoid all pain and suffering in this life, really understand others, really love others, and fulfill Christ's command? We must allow ourselves to be taken out of our comfort zones. We must try not to hide from the sufferings of this life, because to do so is to hide from love and from what it means to be human. If we allow ourselves to be moulded and shaped by suffering, we will see that it is the other side of love. If we learn from such pain, we can cope with life and to help others do the same. Suffering will not distort our humanity, but its humble acceptance will allow us to be the human beings we can be. So, although suffering may involve pain and weakness, though it may afflict us physically and mentally, it is also a source of power. God's power is seen in that sharing in love and in suffering, in bearing and sharing the burdens of our earthly existence. We share in that power that comes to full strength in weakness. And however hard it may be, we must learn to see suffering as part of our sanctification. Whenever